The Nintendo GameCube holds a rather quirky place in Nintendo's history. Released in late 2001 as the successor to the Nintendo 64, it faced much stiffer competition from Sony's PlayStation 2, which was released a year earlier to phenomenal success, Sega's Dreamcast, which launched a year before that, and Microsoft's new foray into the console market with the Xbox, which would release around the same time as the GameCube. Although finding initial success at launch, Nintendo's GameCube would ultimately stagger far behind the PlayStation 2 in sales, duking it out for second place in the console market with the Xbox, which would ultimately overtake it in sales. Common criticisms of the console at the time were its graphics, the appearance of the console itself, and in particular the controller and its microdiscs, as well as its unfortunate position by many, including lots of kids on my school bus, as the little kid console. Indeed, this latter criticism would be a stigma that Nintendo would actively try to push back against, with releases later on in the system's lifespan. Despite all of these criticisms, as well as ultimately becoming one of Nintendo's worst-selling consoles, the Nintendo GameCube has left an indelible mark on the gaming world, and in the present day is looked back on fondly by many people, becoming highly collectible with its library of games now celebrated as some of the best that Nintendo has to offer, as well as many now becoming very successful as re-releases or remasters. As a kid, I was a massive GameCube fanatic, and it is notable to me as the very first video game system I ever purchased for myself, and yes, I was often the one guy on the school bus steadfastly defending the console for all of the criticisms, and many more, that were thrown at it. So, all that being said, let's transport ourselves back to the early 2000s and revisit what I believe to be the 20 best games for the Nintendo GameCube. As a short side note, I want to dedicate this video to my good pal and channel alum, Dave, who not only helped inspire me to make this video, but is the biggest GameCube fanatic I know. Love you, Dave. Number 20, Beautiful Joe. An eye-popping action platformer with one of the coolest art styles of any game on the console. Capcom's Beautiful Joe is a really fun beat-em-up that holds up really well. As a sort of homage to classic superhero movie tropes, you naturally play as Joe, a movie buff who sets out to save his girlfriend from an evil group called the Jado. Joe traverses various side-scrolling levels and utilizes a number of combat moves that are both fun to execute as well as just looking totally badass. Many of these moves take advantage of the camera itself, allowing for visually stunning attacks emulating camera techniques like zooming in or slow-mo. An underrated gem that needs to make a comeback. The sequel is great too. Number 19, Kirby Air Ride. Recently, this game is making a big comeback on the Nintendo Switch 2, with the announcement of a sequel, Kirby Air Riders. However, the original Kirby Air Ride for the GameCube is a great game in its own right. Starring, of course, everyone's favorite pink puffball, Kirby Air Ride is a fun and fast-paced racing game which combines elements from the Kirby games into a racing format. Unlike most racing games, Kirby Air Ride starts with only one playable character, Kirby, and various vehicles which require the use of only 2 buttons to steer, brake, or charge up a boost. Kirby can also, of course, utilize various transformations as weapons as well as gliding while in mid-air, which really shakes things up. The game features 3 modes: Air Ride, which is the classic racing mode, Top Ride, which is from a top-down perspective, featuring smaller courses, and City Trial, which is a more open format in which the player can explore different areas and collect items. An addictive, fast-paced racer that's a blast to play. Number 18, Soul Calibur 2. A sequel to the original Soul Calibur, which was released in arcades as well as on the Sega Dreamcast, Namco's Soul Calibur 2 is one of the best fighting games on the console. Featuring classic fighting game combat akin to games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, Soul Calibur 2 mixes it up with new characters, weapons, and moves, including a 3-step soul charge system, a clash system that is used when 2 attacks hit each other simultaneously, and guard break attacks which put a blocking player into a post-guard impact state. Given that the game was released on all platforms at the time, each iteration of the game features a guest character specific to that version. In the case of the GameCube version, none other than Link from The Legend of Zelda was included as a playable character, which really adds to the charm of the GameCube title. Overall a fun, classic fighting game that really packs a punch. Number 17, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader. Did you ever as a kid watching Star Wars imagine what it was like being Luke Skywalker as he battled it out against the Empire in his X-Wing in an attempt to destroy the Death Star? Well, when Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader was released as a launch title for the GameCube, yours and my dreams came true with a gorgeous looking game that simulated scenes from the original trilogy of movies as a flight simulator shooter. This game is ridiculously fun and action-packed, allowing the player to take control of various different Star Wars vehicles, including the X-Wing, A-Wing, Y-Wing, B-Wing, and of course, the Millennium Falcon. This was one of 3 games I originally purchased with my GameCube, and I remember being blown away by the game's impressive graphics, music, and how faithful it was to the original movies. A must for the GameCube and one of the best Star Wars games, period. Number 16, F-Zero GX. The last proper original F-Zero game to be released on a Nintendo console to date, F-Zero GX is probably the best game of the series, upping the ante with enhanced graphics from its predecessors, as well as high-octane gameplay, lightning-fast frame rates and visuals, and an absolutely killer rockin' soundtrack. Very F-Zero. F-Zero GX also features a proper story mode with visually impressive cutscenes and full voice acting, following Captain Falcon through various racing scenarios and fleshing out the other characters more. The game features several other modes as well, such as Grand Prix, Verse Mode, and Customized Battle. As far as the F-Zero series goes, you can't get much better than this. Number 15, Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. As a remake of the original Metal Gear Solid, The Twin Snakes is basically the original game with bolstered graphics, new gameplay mechanics taken from Metal Gear Solid 2, and a revised translation. Like the original game, the player controls Solid Snake and sneaks around a nuclear facility using various stealth techniques and weapons. In addition to Twin Snake's new revised translation of the original game script, the game featured new cutscenes and voice acting, which was redone by nearly the entire original voice cast, including David Hayter, Snake's voice actor. Although the game did receive criticisms for some of the cutscenes being a little too Matrix-esque, Twin Snakes is a solid Snake remake of a classic. Number 14, Mario Kart Double Dash. Perhaps the most unique Mario Kart to be released to date, and also one of the most beloved. Mario Kart Double Dash is a very different take on the series, with a large cast of playable characters, a plethora of new vehicles, items, and courses, all with their own unique attributes, and of course, the new gimmick of 2 racers per vehicle. Each character, as in previous entries of the series, has their own attributes, each with their own unique items such as Yoshi's eggs or Bowser's spike shell. The player can switch the 2 characters at any time during the race between the driver in the front and the character in the back using items. The same old Mario Kart formula is present in the game, however, like the Grand Prix, Versus, and Battle modes, and the game includes 16 tracks. Notably absent, however, is the ability to jump, although the player can still drift. A fun, fast-paced game, Mario Kart Double Dash is an essential title for the GameCube. Number 13, Animal Crossing. The game that launched a franchise that has become one of Nintendo's most successful IPs as of late. When the first Animal Crossing was released back in 2002, it was a very different, and indeed, successful game that breathed fresh life into the simulation game formula, with a unique world, characters, and a very laid-back approach to gameplay. The player assumes the role of a new resident in town, whereupon you receive a house loan from Tom Nook, the local raccoon shopkeeper. The game is played in real time, using the GameCube's internal clock and calendar, with no real set objective, and the player spends time doing odd jobs for Tom Nook to pay off debt, collecting and selling items, fishing, bug catching, and interacting with the other people in town, among other things. Animal Crossing's non-linear, laid-back approach makes it incredibly replayable, as well as extremely approachable for less hardcore gamers. Its charming world, cute art style, and cozy feel make it perhaps the most fun and relaxing experience on the GameCube. Number 12, Beyond Good and Evil. An excellent action-adventure game developed by Ubisoft, Beyond Good and Evil is a seriously underrated game. While a commercial failure at launch, it has since garnered a cult following and is considered by many to be one of the greatest games of its era. Starring Jade, a photojournalist and martial artist who runs an orphanage on the planet Hillies in the year 2435, who is recruited to a resistance group called Iris Network. She fights enemies, solves puzzles, and takes photographs for evidence to expose the truth to free Hillies from oppression. The gameplay involves a lot of exploration, puzzle solving, and stealth, and the game's stellar art style, music, and voice acting really do a nice job of fleshing out the very unique setting. A truly awesome game worth checking out. Number 11, Tales of Symphonia. Although many people would not immediately associate the JRPG genre with the GameCube, particularly with such heavyweights as Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts largely relegated to the PS2. A few notable RPGs did grace the Purple Cube with their intricate storytelling and turn-based mechanics, such as Skies of Arcadia and Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. However, Tales of Symphonia is no doubt the best game of the lot. As the fifth game in the Tales series, Tales of Symphonia follows a young swordsman named Lloyd Irving, who joins his childhood friend Colette Brunel, the Chosen One, as well as several other companions on a journey to regenerate the world of Silverant. The game utilizes a multi-linear motion battle system in which the player controls one character with 3 other party members who are either controlled by the computer or with up to 3 additional players. Damage dealt to the opponent fills a unison gauge. When this is full, a unison attack can be triggered, allowing the party to use techniques simultaneously on a single enemy. The combat is super fun to play with friends, and the world is sprawling, and the plot, just the best kind of high fantasy JRPG storytelling, with memorable characters and emotional scenes. Truly an epic GameCube game. Number 10, Eternal Darkness. Developed by Silicon Knights in collaboration with Nintendo, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, is a fantastic survival horror game in which the player controls 12 different characters across various historical time periods. The main protagonist, Alexandra Roivas, who is investigating her grandfather's mysterious murder, discovers the Tome of Eternal Darkness, a magical book that reveals a secret war against ancient evil deities called the Ancients. Each of these 12 characters is playable across various different time periods of history, with different abilities, weapons, and limitations. A key element of the game is the sanity meter, which makes characters lose sanity and resulting in the game actually distorting reality, with fourth wall breaking effects like fake error messages or altered environments, creating a truly terrifying experience. The game's stellar voice acting, atmosphere, and story make it a scary good and underrated GameCube game. Number 9, Super Mario Sunshine! Perhaps the most polarizing Mario game of all time, of the main series of games at least. Super Mario Sunshine is nevertheless a classic 3D Mario title that is more than deserving of this list. When Mario, Peach, and her retainers, including Toadsworth, decide to take a vacation to the tropical paradise of Isle Delfino, Mario becomes entangled in a series of mysterious crimes in which large portions of the island are polluted in a paint-like substance after being confused for a mysterious shadow that resembles him. He's ordered to clean the island up using Flood, a talking water spraying device, as well as to find the missing Shine Sprites. Super Mario Sunshine's gameplay is basically the 3D platformer style of its predecessor, Super Mario 64, with additional controls for Flood, that allows Mario to spray water, shoot up high into the air after charging, and hovering for a short time above the ground among other new abilities. The game for sure has some fair criticisms, particularly with the camera and at times its difficulty. Nevertheless, it's a really important game that introduced characters like Toadsworth, Bowser Jr., and Petey Piranha, and really expanded the idea of the Mario 3D platformer formula. Number 8, Luigi's Mansion. Every Nintendo console needs to launch with a Mario game, right? Well, in the case of the GameCube, Mario's green-clad brother finally stepped out of the shadows and into a haunted mansion. Luigi's Mansion was a brand new take on the Mario formula, with its dark, spooky aesthetic, unique gameplay involving trapping ghosts using nothing but a Ghostbusters-style vacuum cleaner called the Poltergust 3000, as well as the odd choice of making the A button, yes, that massive green button on the controllers, sole function to make Luigi call out Mario's name. Kind of a weird choice. Luigi's Mansion is a really quirky, but fun game, with lots of puzzle solving, ghost hunting, and collectible items. For once, Luigi takes the hero's role, after winning a mysterious mansion in a contest he never entered. He arrives to meet Mario, who has disappeared. There he meets the idiosyncratic Professor Egad, who assists and equips him with the Poltergust 3000. Luigi's job is to capture the ghosts in the mansion to turn them back into paintings, as well as Boos who wander the mansion after cleaning a room. Luigi's Mansion, although definitely too short of a game, is nonetheless a scary good time, and a great start to a new and successful series, and a great console. Number 7, Metroid Prime 2, Echoes. The sequel to the excellent Metroid Prime, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes took a darker direction from its predecessor, while retaining the key gameplay mechanics of the first game. Taking place on the planet Aether, where a Phazon meteor has split a rift into the planet's energy, creating a dark world inhabited by creatures called the Ing, Samus again faces the space pirates who have created a base there to utilize the Phazon. Echoes' plot also introduced Samus' doppelganger, Dark Samus, for the first time, and was the first and only game to feature both a dark and light world. Echoes' darker tone, creepy music, and excellent gameplay set it apart from the first Prime, and Retro Studios even included a multiplayer mode, which featured split screen and 2 modes to play, Deathmatch and Bounty, which can include up to 4 players. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes is a really excellent entry in the Metroid series, and a case really could be made for whether it or the first Metroid Prime is the better game. Number 6, The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. After receiving criticism from the North American market for the Wind Waker's art style, Nintendo sought to make a more realistic version of The Legend of Zelda as their swan song title for the GameCube, as well as a launch title for their new console, the Wii, with the GameCube version oddly releasing a month after the Wii version. Regardless, Twilight Princess brought a whole new depth and scale to the series, with its intricate storytelling, large world to explore, impressive graphics, art style, and darker tone. Although admittedly the game takes a little while to get going, it's ultimately an impressive game utilizing classic Zelda gameplay with a cool new feature that allows Link to transform into a wolf when entering the Twilight Realm. Midna, Link's companion, is also notable as being one of the most charismatic and interesting sidekicks in the Zelda series. The plot is classic Zelda fare. Link is pulled into a struggle to save Hyrule from being consumed by a dark realm called the Twilight. When shadow creatures invade, Link is transformed into a wolf in the twilight-covered areas. He teams up with Midna to restore light to Hyrule and stop the evil usurper Zant, who has taken control of the Twilight. Twilight Princess is a positively spellbinding game that is one of the very best games of both the console and the Zelda series. Number 5, Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. As a sequel to the original Paper Mario for the Nintendo 64, Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door is not only a beloved game by fans of the series and the GameCube as a whole, but is widely considered the best Paper Mario game. When Mario receives a letter and a magical map from Princess Peach, who has gone missing while researching a mysterious treasure, he follows her trail to Rogueport, where he learns that the treasure lies behind the Thousand-Year Door, sealed by powerful magic. To open the door, Mario must collect 7 crystal stars, hidden across diverse lands like ancient ruins, a haunted forest, and a floating arena. Along the way, he meets several different new partners and battles the X-Nauts, who are also after the treasure for their own dark purposes. Thousand-Year Door features similar mechanics as the first Paper Mario, with its turn-based battles, badges, special techniques, and of course, those signature platforming mechanics that is the staple of the Mario series. It was the last game of the series to use this turn-based battle system until its very recent remake on the Nintendo Switch, much to the chagrin of Paper Mario fans. With its epic story, humorous writing, fun gameplay, and quirky world, Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door is certainly a must-play game for the GameCube. Number 4, Super Smash Bros. Melee. The original Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64 was a smash hit, so naturally, Nintendo needed to create a sequel for the GameCube. With its bolstered graphics, expanded character roster, new stages, modes, and tweaked gameplay mechanics, Super Smash Bros. Melee truly upped the ante. Undoubtedly the best fighting game on the console, if not its generation, Super Smash Bros. Melee really deserves its revered status as one of the best fighting games of all time, and is perhaps the single most replayable game on the GameCube. Seriously, there are still tournaments to this day where people play this specific game, and people have analyzed the gameplay down to a science where it gets fiercely competitive. I know, I've been to these tournaments. All that aside, Melee was a must-own for any GameCube fan, as it was one of the best multiplayer games to play. With characters like Bowser, Zelda, Mewtwo, and Ganondorf joining the likes of veterans like Mario, Link, and Samus, the competition was now even more diverse, including all of the extra modes like Adventure Mode, All-Star, and event matches. This game also has some of the best music of all time and is a personal favorite in terms of the varied music tracks with their epic rockin' feel. Truly a must-own GameCube game that really packs a punch. Number 3, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. As groundbreaking and epic of a game as Twilight Princess would be later on in the console's life, it's really The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker that's the best of the 2 Zelda games on the GameCube. While receiving criticism, largely in North America, at the time for the cel-shaded graphics and more cutesy art style, Wind Waker's visuals really hold up as its own unique and impressive aesthetic. That aside, the game is just a bit more fun to play with a very charming story and some of the very best music of any Zelda game. When a giant bird kidnaps his sister Arl, Link sets out to rescue her. This leads him on a voyage across the seas, traversing various different islands, where he discovers that the world is the flooded remains of ancient Hyrule, sealed long ago to stop the evil Ganondorf. With help from a talking boat called the King of Red Lions, Link sails between islands, gathers the power of the Triforce, and awakens the Master Sword. He also meets Tetra, a pirate who is later revealed to be Princess Zelda, who helps him along the way. While there are a few little moments in the game that do get a little tedious, such as the sailing at times and fishing for the Triforce shards, these have both been largely improved with the HD remaster for the Wii U, and are quite negligible in terms of the overall experience of Wind Waker, which is quite simply sublime. Wind Waker has a lot of truly memorable moments that really stick with the player, and is a fun game to just kick back and sail right through. Number 2, Metroid Prime. This was truly a game changer for the Metroid series. At the time of Metroid Prime's release, the Metroid series had laid dormant for 8 years following Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo in 1994. Nintendo had wanted to bring back the series on the N64, but ultimately ended up handing the project to American developer Retro Studios as their first official game release. It cannot be overstated how groundbreaking Metroid Prime was for the series when it was released. Unlike other first-person shooters both then and now, the core focus of Prime was always an exploration rather than as a first-person shooter game. Just like in Metroid games before it, there's lots of emphasis on exploration, puzzle solving, and finding items and upgrades. Prime enhances this experience in a much deeper way, however, with its incredible visuals, soundtrack, and the first-person perspective, giving the player a deeper sense of immersion, as if traversing Talon 4 and Samus' suit themselves. Prime also added the scan visor, which allows Samus to survey her surroundings, and providing the player with tons more lore and backstory. Metroid Prime is, simply put, a masterpiece that really ushered Metroid into the modern era, and turned the first-person shooter formula on its head. One of the very best GameCube games and an absolute must-play. It's a blast. Number 1, Resident Evil 4. When I was a kid in high school, probably the most uncool thing you could say was that your favorite console at the time was the GameCube. That is, of course, until Resident Evil 4. As part of a deal with Nintendo and Capcom to release the Capcom 5 games that would be released exclusively for the GameCube by Capcom, Resident Evil 4 was not only a scary good third-person survival horror shooter, but has ultimately been regarded as one of the very best games of all time, and the crown jewel of the Resident Evil series, and has since been ported to many other systems and been recently remade for modern consoles. For a brief time, however, Resident Evil 4 was only available for the GameCube, and I can still personally remember the first time I turned on the game and wandered into that initial village. It was creepy, dark, and so much fun to play. The story follows Leon S. Kennedy, a US government agent sent to a rural village in Spain to rescue Ashley Graham, the president's kidnapped daughter. He later discovers that the villagers are infected by a mind-controlling parasite called Las Plagas, controlled by a cult named Los Illuminados, led by Osmond Sadler. The cult plans to use Ashley to spread the parasite into the US government. Resident Evil's gameplay is incredibly addictive, with its third-person perspective and plethora of different weapons to choose from, including a handgun, rifle, knives, and even grenades and rocket launchers, amongst many others. The boss battles are epic, the environment's creepy, and the music, haunting. There are a lot of memorable moments and characters from previous Resident Evil games that pop up later, as well as brand new characters. I mean, who can forget the Merchant? Got a lot of good things on sale, stranger. Truly a blood-curdling great game that is one of the best horror shooter games of all time, as well as, in my opinion, the very best Nintendo GameCube game. thank you everybody for checking out this video. I really appreciate it. What are your top 20 GameCube games? Please put them down below, and please check out some of my other videos. I have lots of other top 20 lists and stuff of this nature, and there's lots more to come. So please subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. Peace.